So, sugar's impact on your brain is bigger than you think. We've got more brain science coming next. See you then.
1. The neural bomb hidden in your cup. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. Before we start, take a look at the drink in your hand, that full sugar milk tea, the caramel macchiato, or the soda you just opened for a life-saving energy boost. What I'm about to say might make that cup feel as heavy as a ticking time bomb. Today, we are discussing a hardcore, somewhat terrifying topic, the precision strike of obesogenic diets on your brain. Our core material comes from an authoritative review by Professors Emily E. Noble and Scott E. Konowski of the University of Southern California, published in Current Opinion in Behavioral Sciences, NIMS 740,347. The most paradigm-shifting takeaway is this. The damage from sugar and saturated fats starts long before you actually get fat. Before your waistline expands or your blood sugar spikes, your brain's hardware may already be breaking down. 2. A counterintuitive timeline of damage. We usually think the consequences of junk food are measured in years, right? I'm young. I have a fast metabolism. A little bit won't hurt. But the experimental data will make your blood run cold. Phase 1. Ultra short term, within 1 week. The lost mouse. In rodent experiments, researchers found that after just 1 week of a high-fat, high-sugar diet, or even more extreme, allowing animals intermittent access to a sucrose solution for just 2 hours, their spatial memory and learning abilities began to plummet. Shutterstock, does this look like in reality? Imagine you're rushing a big project this week and order a full sugar milk tea every afternoon at 2 p.m. to keep going. A week later, the bar on the scale hasn't changed, but your brain is already lost, like a mouse unable to find the exit in a water maze. You start forgetting new colleagues' names, can't recall yesterday's meeting conclusions, or even wander around a familiar parking lot for 10 minutes, unable to find your car. Phase 2, short term, 30 days, the downgrade strike. If you maintain this habit for a month, for example, consuming an 11% high fructose corn syrup, HFCS 55 solution for 30 days, which is the standard concentration in most supermarket sodas, your hippocampus, the brain's hub for memory and learning, suffers significant structural impairment. Even if your body hasn't shown severe metabolic derangement, your brain's performance has already been quietly downgraded. 3. Why early exposure is lifelong programming. The most heartbreaking part of the paper concerns exposure during early life, including the perinatal period, pregnancy and lactation, childhood, and adolescence. If you are an expectant mother or have developing children, listen closely. The hippocampus is one of the last and slowest brain regions to develop. It is still rapidly maturing during adolescence. Research shows that consuming excessive sugar during this stage causes damage that is terrifyingly irreversible. Scientists conducted a prodigal son experiment. They gave developing young rats a high-sugar diet, and then forced them back to a healthy diet, even performing 5 weeks of strict calorie restriction and weight loss. The result? Even though the animals had slimmed down, their impaired memory functions did not recover. This means the damage is deeply structural. It's like malicious low-level code written into your neural algorithms during the initial system build, becoming a lifelong fate. 4. Precision strikes. 3 breakdown mechanisms. Since the damage is deep, how exactly does sugar detonate your brain? The paper identifies 3 primary battlefields. Mechanism 1. The engineer strike, BDNF depletion. First, we must know the term BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. If the hippocampus is your brain's RAM and GPS, BDNF is the senior engineer who maintains and upgrades it, the super fertilizer for neurons. When a high-fat, high-sugar diet enters the system, BDNF levels in the hippocampus drop significantly. Furthermore, a protein called RT, essential for memory consolidation, also decreases. The result, the engineer goes on strike, the fertilizer stops, neural connections wither, and new memories cannot form. Mechanism 2. Security riots in the brain. Neural inflammation. You might not know that the brain has its own immune system. There are security guards called microglia that usually clear out viruses. However, under the stimulation of a high-sugar diet, these guards fall into a delusional frenzy, releasing massive amounts of pro-inflammatory cytokines like IL-1 beta and IL-6. This is neuroinflammation. Your brain is effectively on fire, in a state of low-level smoldering. In reality, this feels like brain fog, feeling groggy, as if looking at the world through frosted glass, completely unable to focus. Mechanism 3. The broken fuel gauge, insulin and leptin resistance. This is the most desperate point. The brain is the body's energy hog. It accounts for only 2% of body weight, but consumes 20% of blood sugar. Insulin is the key that opens the door for energy to enter brain cells. Long-term high sugar leads to insulin resistance in the hippocampus, meaning the locks on the brain cells are broken. Even though your blood is full of sugar, the brain cells are starving to death. Simultaneously, the hippocampus develops a resistance to leptin, the body's break signal that tells the brain I'm full. When this signal can't get through, your brain screams, no fuel. Go eat fried chicken. Get a cake. This physiological chaos is the root of our loss of dietary control. 5. When lab mice enter office buildings. When we translate these microscopic changes into real life, the impact is staggering. Cognitive rigidity in the workplace. The executive function impairment mentioned in the paper manifests as an inability to handle multi-threaded tasks and a loss of flexibility. Faced with a sudden question from your boss, your mind goes blank. Faced with a project that requires a shift in thinking, you crash. This isn't necessarily because you aren't working hard, it's because your hardware is resting. The bottom level trap of emotion. Many people eat sweets when they're down, thinking dopamine will save them. But the literature tells us that behind the brief pleasure lies a long-term emotional abyss. Chronic inflammation and impaired neuroplasticity are the physiological foundations of depression and anxiety. If you habituate to this diet during adolescence, you are essentially programming stress susceptibility and emotional instability into your future self. The long-term cost, type 3 diabetes. From a macro life cycle perspective, this long-term abnormal energy metabolism and neural atrophy are increasingly viewed by researchers as precursors to Alzheimer's disease, often referred to as type 3 diabetes. 6. Protecting your diet is protecting your mental performance. I'm not saying this to create anxiety or to simply persuade you to quit sugar so you can fit into last year's jeans. Weight loss is the most insignificant part of this whole issue. What I want to say is, protecting your diet is essentially protecting your core competitiveness in this information age, your brain and your mental performance. Next time you face shelves of beautifully packaged desserts and drinks, I hope you have a layer of rational armor. The logic of commerce is to use your physiological loopholes to create addiction. Our job is to use this scientific knowledge to take back control of our brains from those sweet temptations. Finally, I'll leave you with a thought. Looking at the attention crisis, unexplained irritability, and the rising depression rates among the youth in today's society, how much of it is due to social pressure, and how much is actually a long-term, universal, invisible brain injury caused by the feed poisons on our plates? Thank you for listening to today's deep dive, brought to you by Vita Choice Ltd. Next time you face that full sugar drink, I hope you remember that mouse spinning in circles in the maze.